All right. And I do believe that we are live. So welcome to Mondays with McCool over on Paydirt now. This was a show that was going on over at Roto-Grinders, which is now being moved over to Paydirt for me and Jordan. Since we're not going to be over there as much anymore. I say that ironically as we're holding up Roto-Grinders Results TV because it's a really good product still, and it's free to use. So welcome. If this is the first time that you guys have ever joined us, usually this is a breakdown on Mondays of the previous NFL slate during the NFL season. During the MLB season, we usually talk a little bit about kind of the slate ahead, but mostly it's just bullshitting. And I imagine there will be a lot more bullshitting now that this is happening on Paydirt rather than over at Roto-Grinders during the recap stuff. So without further ado, joining me today is Blender. How you doing, Blender?
Fine. I mean, I lost a little bit yesterday on both sides, but it was not a disaster. I played when you play a wide receiver in the massive $25 double up that is 1.5% owned. You kind of sweating the 4 p.m. games to make sure that you made the right choice, and I made the wrong choice, but I still got there.
Who's the 1% wide receiver?
I played Tyler Lockett over Jacoby Myers.
I mean, okay, I can buy that. Did you play him with Gino?
No. I mean, this is my cash lineup. I mean, I played because I was playing Jacoby Myers on FanDuel.
Sure.
So a lot of times what I do is that I try not to play the same exact lineup like on both sites. So if like I have a choice between like a 1v1 type of thing, 2v2, it's like I'll play it, like hedge it a little. And then once I knew that I was playing Tyler Lockett on DraftKings, I entered a lot more triple ups and head-to-head volume rather than double ups. I mean, it worked out. I mean, I ended up I broke even in cash on DraftKings, lost a little in GPP, and then FanDuel lost like 6%, and that's because I had Sam Darnold, and he got there on FanDuel, but I mean, I could have played a Hurts or Lamar lineup either, and then obviously on DraftKings, it wouldn't have been as much of a sweat with Lockett if Cedric Tillman didn't catch that touchdown with 46 seconds left in the game, because I didn't play Tillman because I was playing Olave, London, and Lockett, and then Dak Prescott in my lineup. So I had 3 guys that got injured, and I still got that 159.12. I just got over the line in the main double ups.
I'm surprised you didn't play Tillman. Why didn't you play Tillman?
I didn't need to play Tillman because of Eckler. My original lineup before the Eckler news, because I think that was the biggest thing we've had in DFS this season so far as far as late news. Beforehand, my cash lineup on DraftKings was Dak, Kamara, Chase Brown, Devon Achane, London, Olave, Tillman, Gesicki, whatever the hell defense was down there. I think Giants defense or something like that. And then once Eckler came into play, it's like I didn't need to play. I mean, I was going to play Kamara and Chase Brown no matter what. So Eckler, Brian Robinson gets inactive.
Yeah.
And Eckler was way too cheap on FanDuel, so I had to play him there. So I just switched to Eckler, and instead of going all the way up at quarterback with the extra money, I just stayed at quarterback and just went up from Cedric Tillman. It was Cedric Tillman to either Lockett or Myers, and then taking the Titans or the Eagles defense. And I just thought that I'd rather play a receiver attached to the Geno Smith and the Seahawks offense, especially with Metcalf out, than Jacoby Myers, who I was confident could give me like 12 points, probably 12, 13 points. I mean, probably a perfectly fine 660 type of game. But I thought that the Seahawks had a little bit more upside. That I played a lot of Seahawks. I played a lot of JSN. I played a lot of Lockett. I played a lot of Geno Smith because I thought they were underowned, and so many people I was listening to on GPP podcasts around the industry We're like, up, I'm out on Gino. Out on Gino. Out on Gino. But I mean, they had like a 23-point implied total against the Rams.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, I'll play that if you don't want to. But the main thing, James, is I think is a heuristic to I've said this for years. The later the news comes in, the more you should lean into it. And sometimes you'll get burned. Sometimes sometimes whatever. But like if Brian Robinson was doubtful on Friday, Austin Eckler would have been like 32 to 35% owned.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Right. So I played 40 GPP lineups. He was in 90% of them because once that news came out, projections got updated, and he was like the second or third best value on the entire slate. I put his ownership at 15%. And then when I ran my stuff, I could not get him for his projection at 15% owned. And he ended up coming in at 15.5% owned in the Millie. Just to put things into perspective, Tyrone Tracy at 5,500 was more owned than him at 18.7% ownership. And I don't know how the hell that happened. Right.
Yeah.
There are certain things I'm like, what is going on? How is that? I had Tyrone Tracy projected to be like 6% owned, and I still wasn't getting him, let alone at 18% owned. But the main thing with the Eckler news and running back is that running back didn't matter.
Right.
So I playing a low 6% owned James Conner or a 2% owned Tony Pollard. I played a 1.4% owned J.K. Dobbins, and yet I could have just played Kamara. I could have just played Achane. I mean, like, I played a ton of Chase Brown, a ton of Eckler. I played Bijan Robinson, who came in a little bit higher than I thought at 18% owned. But it's like this recurring theme of like, as long as you find two running backs that get on average about like 20-ish points, like, you don't really, it doesn't really matter what their ownership is, as long as you're not, like, I faded a lot of Kamara because at 7,800, it's like, I think if he only scores like 25 points, I think I could get 20 from someone else. And he scored 30, and it didn't fucking matter.
He scored 30 without scoring a touchdown now.
Yeah, well, he had like 34 touches or something.
He had 220 yards from scrimmage.
And they lost the game.
And they lost. I know. It's insane. Like the
coach is gone. You saw Allen got fired.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
when you lose to the Panthers, that's the end. You're done.
Right. That's it. Yeah. You get cut instantly. I thought when I was running things after the Austin Eckler news, and I don't think that it was wrong to have Austin Eckler in cash. I did not put him in cash, but I absolutely understand having him in cash. When I ran things afterwards, he was showing up as the second most valuable running back on the slate in the contest sims. I tried to pull them up, but I don't have that seed frame loaded anymore. But he was showing up as the second most valuable running back by ownership, and I had him projected for 11% ownership. He didn't come in that much higher. He came in at 15%. Looks like Tyrone Tracy ownership just out of nowhere, man. I don't know what that is. 18%. I thought that he was a great low-owned play, but when you flip the cards and he shows up at 19%, not a good play anymore, man. Especially when you have Austin Eckler right there at 5,300. That ownership was kind of wild. I didn't really understand that at all. My big thing this week was looking at, and I wrote it in like the thoughts and notes. I wrote the chalk is really good this week in like 4 different spots in this article. I wrote it here. I said every piece of chalk here makes sense. Down here in the overall place of notes, chalk is very good. Up here, a lot of ownership is funneling, and it's good chalk. Like, this week was basically just, you should just play a lot of chalk. There's no reason
other than the people that get injured, other than the injured people.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you should absolutely try to do some time travel and avoid playing the guys who get injured. But overall, like you can see, ownership is like, all right, Chase Brown nuked, Alvin Kamara nuked, Chris Olave died, Cedric Tillman was great for 4,300, Mike Gesicki 10x, Devon Achane, however the hell you pronounce his name, 32 fantasy points. CeeDee Lamb injured, but still got 16. Like, if you played a cash lineup with like a pivot, you're great this week. And it speaks to it. Over at ETR, Mike Leone chopped the Thunderdome, chopped it on an NFL main slate. That's disgusting, by the way. But like, that's just an outcome that we had this week. And it was kind of broadcast. We knew that chalk was going to be really, really good, that high ownership was going to be really, really good this week. My way of looking at that was, okay, if the chalk's going to be really good, then you can do kind of two things to mitigate. You can say, I'm going to eat like all of the chalk and put it around a low-owned stack, which is what I did. Or you can eat all of the chalk in a weird kind of way that has a different kind of roster construction, which the way that I wrote up was with 2 tight end builds. I thought the 2 tight end builds were really, really good this week, with Brock Bowers and Evan Ingram both being about $1,500 underpriced relative to their projections against running backs and wide receivers. So I'm interested to hear how you approach this. Did you think this is a really, really good chalk week? Because I did.
Well, I mean, I think every week is a really good chalk week. I mean, it's lineups, not players. So like the way that I build around product ownership. So it's like, I'm just going to play the highest projected lineups that I can that have a good amount of correlation, that have a low enough product ownership, but it doesn't have to be that low. And what I also try to do is I try to avoid popular structures. And one of the tools that you made for the theory of DFS is the portfolio analyzer. And like, I use that as like a research tool for the field. So I'll go in and I'll use industry projections, go into lineup HQ on Roto Grinders, and just, if people are just running, just give me a stack and give me the rest of my lineup. Like, what is the salary distribution? What players tend to stick to one another? And I try to not play those types of lineups. So like a guy, like I played less of Cedric Tillman. And we have to talk, the 4th highest owned wide receiver on the whole fucking slate was Jalen Coker.
Yeah.
Panthers wide receiver 2, right? At best. And I did play a couple of lineups with Coker, but like I did my old school. Where's the leverage? Where are people too certain when they shouldn't be certain? So I played less Tillman. I played a ton of Elijah Moore and Jerry Jeudy, right? Especially Elijah Moore, because he's $100 cheaper than Tillman. And Moore got 8 targets, didn't really amount to much because the Browns weren't very good.
Right.
So it's like, okay, if I'm going to play a 44K receiver, as a one-off, I'm going to play Elijah Moore in that spot, right? If I'm going to play an 8K wide receiver, I'm going to play Jamar Chase or AJ Brown in that spot and not CeeDee Lamb. I made it a point to not play CeeDee Lamb unless he was in Prescott stacks, and not to play London unless he was in Cousins stacks, because I thought that these are the high-owned wide receivers. Olave was the only one that I didn't mind playing by themselves, because I was making it a point not to play Kamara and Olave together, because you got a lot of lineups that got Olave and Kamara together. So I'm like, okay, I don't need Carr, right? But I'm going to make sure that I only have one of each, and then build around there. And JSN coming in at 6%, Lockett coming in at 4%. Like, they were 2 of my highest, like my highest exposed wide receivers, I believe, were Elijah Moore, Tyler Lockett, JSN, Jacoby Myers, even though I didn't play him in my cash lineup. And of course, and then I built the stacks around there, but my quarterback ownership was kind of flat. Like, I didn't have a ton. I played 40 lineups. I don't think I had more than like 6 lineups of any one quarterback. So I played some Cousins lineups, some Hurts lineups, some Prescott lineups. I played Carr, Winston, Burrow, Josh Allen. I played a Jaden Daniels lineup, a Minshew lineup. But like Geno Smith coming in at 4% owned, and all these Seahawks guys coming in, so like every sim that I ran showed like Geno Smith, like stack lineups were were like 8, 9, 10% optimal.
Yeah.
And the ownership, like none of the players were going to be 10%. Like this is 10% optimal as a stack. Yet none of the individual pieces were even going to be double-digit owned. So I just go by the numbers and I just go, okay, well, just give me a bunch of Geno Smith if people don't want to play him.
Yeah.
The problem though, James, the problem with that though is that I didn't play JSN plus Lockett. I played wide receiver plus AJ Barner. And when Mike Gesicki goes for 30 points and Barner has 5.6 or whatever, like, sure, I had some Geno. I mean, I looked at like one of my Geno stacks and I'm like, this lineup, if I replace Barner with Gesicki and the Cardinals defense, and then I actually play Kamara in this lineup, like I would have come like top 20 in the millie or something. I mean, not first or anything, but it's like I was there. I was in the ballpark enough. And of course, some of these lineups, I mean, my Prescott, Lamb, Olave lineups with J.K. Dobbins, as the 1% owned piece, and Tony Pollard, like those didn't cash, right? my Jameis Winston, Elijah Moore, David Njoku lineups with Jamar Chase as the pay up, or AJ Brown, those didn't cash, but the general construction that I was looking for, I mean, I was happy with.
Yeah, I that flat quarterback ownership, that's kind of a microcosm of what the field did, right? I mean, there was not a single quarterback in the millie over 10% owned. Just a handful of guys kind of owned, but nobody like notably owned. When I wrote my article for DK Network, it was showing Geno Smith at projected for 12% ownership. And I wrote that on Friday. And then cards flip and he's 4%. He was the worst play in the contest sims at 12%, but at 4% would have been totally fine. So that's kind of,
but I think that was I think that's more of a byproduct of earlier in the week. We were under the expectation, or most people, I think, were under the expectation that DK Metcalf was going to play. Then on Friday, when Metcalf was ruled out, or at least doubtful or whatever, people just like, oh, the Seahawks looked bad last week. I think they're going to look bad this week also. And people just, like, they don't realize that Tyler Lockett is a Pro Bowl. I mean, he's older now, but he's a Pro Bowl level wide receiver. JSN is a good wide receiver. He may not be the best wide receiver. And Kenneth Walker he's a great running back that could catch balls out of the backfield. The Seahawks aren't a bad team.
Right? No, they're not.
And Geno Smith isn't a bad quarterback. Geno Smith is, compared to, take a look around the league. Geno Smith is in the top half. I mean, at minimum, I'd put Geno Smith as a top 10 quarterback in the league.
Oh, you're insane. He's not a top 10 quarterback.
Really. So let's go through the quarterbacks and tell me I'm not sure if Dak Prescott is a top 10 quarterback.
Okay. All right. So let's first top 5. All right. Top 5. Who are your top 5?
No, let's go down. I have all the quarterbacks that were at least on this slate. Okay. And you tell me if they're a top 10 and we'll just count them. Okay.
We'll sort it by salary because I think that makes sense here.
Okay, Lamar, obviously, right? Jalen, obviously. Josh Allen, obviously.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels.
I would put him in the top half. I don't know if I'd put him in the top 10 because he's still rookie.
Okay. Jordan Love.
I'll put him in the top 10. I think he's been good.
Okay. Joe Burrow.
I'll put him in the top 10. Yeah.
Okay. Kyler Murray. He may be in the top half, but maybe not the top 10.
Yeah, I can't put him in the top 10.
Jared Goff is in the top 10.
Yes. Jared Goff is top 10.
Maybe not the best DFS quarterback, but real life.
He's good real life.
Cousins, maybe in the top half, not the top 10.
Yeah, we'll say that. I think, and Cousins and Dak Prescott, for the record, are the exact same quarterback. So they can get, they're slotted in right there at 12.
Right. Tua.
Oh, okay. Hold on. With how bad the Dolphins were without him.
Fine. Okay. So we're up to 7. Fine. I'll give you 2 at 7.
Okay.
Caleb Williams, definitely not.
No, absolutely not.
Bo Nix, definitely not.
Definitely not. No.
Okay, Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, I'll put him in the top 10. I still think
Okay,
that he is a
that's
good
8.
real life quarterback.
Okay, we're up to 8.
Okay.
Derek Carr, no.
No.
Trevor Lawrence, no.
No.
Drake May, no. Jameis
No.
Winston, no. Justin Herbert.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, 9th. And then
Absolutely.
Daniel Jones, definitely not. Mason Rudolph, definitely not. Gardner Minshew, definitely not. Bryce Young, definitely not.
Okay,
And then we got
the backups.
Then we got Darnold.
I think I'm not going to put Darnold in top 10.
Okay, and Flacco, definitely not, and Anthony Richardson, definitely not.
No.
And then we got Purdy.
Yes, top 10.
Mayfield.
Yes, I think that's fair. I think fair.
Mayfield.
At least top half.
Hey,
we already hit 10. We haven't even mentioned Patrick Mahomes yet.
Right. Well, Patrick Mahomes, obviously, and then Russell Wilson.
And Russell Wilson is probably like 16 or 17. So there's at least 12 quarterbacks ahead. If you take out Kirk Cousins and Dak Prescott, who I think are definitely ahead of Geno Smith. So he's like 15th. I think that's fine.
Oh, top
he's
half.
good.
Okay, top half. Okay. But if someone wanted to make the argument that they'd put Geno Smith 10th and put him above like Kirk Cousins and Stafford or something, or Herbert even.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he's in that. If you're comparing him to guys that you had no problem playing, right? If you're comparing him like, well, would you play Jared Goff or Geno Smith? You'd be like, I mean, I think they're at least close enough. It's not like you're saying it's Will Levis or anything, right?
Yeah. I think that's fair. I don't have any problem with Geno Smith. I think he's a totally average quarterback that has some really dumb choices that he makes sometimes.
Right.
But he has athletic ability to make up for it. I think he's fine. He's like dollar store Russell Wilson, I think.
Right. But at least he has talent around him also.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. The Seahawks are not a bad team. They're not. Right. They actually have. I would say that Kenneth Walker is probably a top 5 running back in the league. Right. They've got talent. I agree with that.
I don't know. Maybe top 5. Maybe top 10.
Yeah. I think they're.
You want to do this for running backs now? Walker top 5 running back.
Yeah, I thought that Geno Smith, when coming into the week, Paydirt optimals were all over him. If you ran Paydirt optimals basically anywhere, if you ran it at the solver or if you ran it on the optimizer on the site that sucks and isn't that good, then I think that you're gonna get a lot of Geno stacks. The kind of issue was that you were going to pair him. It would have paired him with Jackson Smith, which is great. But then I think it also probably would have forced in a little bit Farrell Brown or AJ Barner.
I was getting a lot of AJ Barner there, right?
Yeah, which is, you're going to land on that.
If I knew he was going to play as many slaps as he did and run as many routes as he did, I have no problem. Dude, he shouldn't have been 2,600.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I wish it's one of those things where after I had written the stuff that I wrote on the QB Edge distributions for DraftKings, I just in my head, I had already removed him from my pool and I didn't check Sunday morning because I built Saturday night. So I probably should have checked again, but my lineup, I only played one lineup this week because we had a birthday party that we went to Saturday and I was kind of worn out Sunday morning, but I played one lineup. My one lineup was a Daniel Jones lineup. And it was gorgeous. It was sick. That lineup was Daniel Jones with Malik Neighbors. And then I had Cedric Tillman and Jalen Coker for values. Don't yell at me about Coker.
You played them together.
I played them. Yeah, I played them together. But with Daniel Jones and Malik Neighbors, who cares? It doesn't matter. And then I played double tight end with Brock Bowers and Evan Ingram, which was sick. That's a sick combo. And then I played Alvin Kamara with Chase Brown. So I had correlations going. I had secondary correlations. I used the Saints defense with Alvin Kamara. It was a beauty of a Millie Maker lineup. I would not have played it in the 150 or the Wildcat or anything, but that lineup was sick for the Millie Maker. It died.
You're sick for playing
it. Okay, you play way worse lineups.
I did play Daniel Jones, Malik Neighbors lineups, but they surely didn't. I didn't play Tillman and Coker together. Yes, that's exactly what I want. The 2 value wide receivers that are 22% and 18% over, completely overowned.
Coker came in way overowned. What did I have him for? I did not have him for that much. Hold on.
Did you have Tillman for that? But did you have Tillman at 22?
Yeah, I had him at 22. I had Coker at 10. So he came in.
How do you play? I don't understand how anyone, given the sample size, when Tillman's 22 and Moore is 6 and Judy is 2, that you go, oh, I'm going to play Cedric Tillman as a one-off.
No, I mean Tillman has been crushing in that role. Like,
well, he didn't crush all day until the end. I mean,
no, you're right.
The dude had 1.9 points at halftime.
Yeah, and if he would have finished with 1.9 fantasy points, then we look back on it and say, yeah, that was a mistake. But because he scored a touchdown, we say, it was worth it.
Touchdown with a minute to go.
Well, you know what?
He got like 11 points on one play at the garbage time.
Sometimes you bank on the garbage time, bro.
No, you shouldn't bank on the garbage time. Garbage time is garbage.
I thought that probably the worst play at ownership was Ray McCloud at 10%. I don't think
I didn't even notice. I didn't really.
I don't think he came in at 10%.
No, he came in at 3% in the millie.
Yeah, okay. So I'd have played him at 3 in the millie. I'd have been fine with that. But at 10%,
where is he 10% in like the power?
I had him projected for 10%.
Oh.
Like, industry had him somewhere between like 7 and 9%. I jumped him up to 10% because of value. Came in at like 3% or something. And I'd been fine with him at 3%. I thought that Cortland Sutton at 13% was.
Yeah, what happened with that? He came in way up more on than I thought he would.
Well, I think that it was just that people saw his performance last week, and look, I mean, Bo Nix was.
Yeah, Bo Nix also came in higher on, right? I mean, Bo Nix was the fourth high, 7.9% ownership.
Yeah, the second highest combo was Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton. 4.1% in the field played Bo Nix plus Cortland Sutton.
Oh, yeah, you see, 4%, right. Chase Brown Gesicki was 5.6%.
Yeah.
Prescott Lamb, 3.9%. Tyrone Tracy in the Giants defense, 3.5%. What? How does that happen? Because these are the combinations that I don't want to play. It's like when I talk about the portfolio analyzer, it's like I don't want to play Brown Gesicki. I don't want to play Kamara Olave. I don't want to play and if I'm going to play CeeDee Lamb, I'm going to play with Prescott and not as a one-off, right? If I'm going to play Malik Neighbors, I'm going to play him with Daniel Jones in that instance.
Yeah.
Right? I'm just looking at all of this.
Yeah, I explicitly said not to play Kamara and Chris Olave together. I didn't think that made any sense at all. Chase Brown and Mike Gesicki, I was fine with that. That's
right, whatever. But I know that the combination was going to be higher owned.
Yeah, it was going to be higher owned, but it was fine.
Right, but you could build around it. Right, I know.
It doesn't matter. Something like if it would have been like Burrow plus Brown plus Gesicki, I would have stayed away from that. I thought that was a little bit more than I would.
Even though that did work out. I mean, I played Burrow. I played Burrow Chase Gesicki, and that didn't work out.
Right. Yeah. Well, but you played the wrong Chase. You played Jamar Chase.
Played Chase Brown. Well, because I thought like the lineups that had the Burrow doubles would be leverage on Chase Brown lineups, and those are the lineups I could play Eckler and Kamara in, right? I mean, that's why the lineup's not players. Like this is how you switch it all around, right? My Olave lineups don't have Kamara, but they probably have Chase Brown in it, right? I mean, like there you go.
Yeah,
they have Elijah Moore in the 4K spot instead of Tillman.
I think that this is a good point. Chase as leverage against CeeDee Lamb made a lot of sense. Nick Chubb as a price pivot over Brown, maybe a little bit much. They did say that he wanted to get
you're giving up like 5 or 6 points in projection just to do that.
Yeah. I think that was probably a little bit too much. Unless you played in like the millie, because you're going to get a massive ownership discount. Maybe it makes sense. 1% owned Nick Chubb for a drop of 5 fantasy points from 36% owned Chase Brown. But I do like the Jamar Chase over CeeDee Lamb thing. I think that made a lot of sense. I actually thought that from when considering ownerships, because I liked the Cowboys at first, but then as I started building out, it was hard for me to get Dak Prescott in GPPs. And the game environment was good and it was fine. But after I started building,
the Cowboys just suck, James.
The Cowboys
are awful.
Yeah, the Cowboys are awful. But I did have
Dak
them.
is making up injuries to get off the field. This team is done. They have no running backs. CeeDee Lamb's he's fed up with everything. I mean, it's going to be cool. It's going to be cool. It's going to be in 3 weeks. We're going to be playing Cooper Rush, Jalen Brooks stacks.
God, I hope not. I think that's within the cards for the New York Jets. Actually, I have a prediction that that Aaron Rodgers is going to have an injury in week 12 and then start a podcast by week 14. That's what I think is going to happen.
No, Aaron Rodgers is going to be. Come Wednesday of this week, he may not even be the Jets quarterback. He's going to be marching upon, getting his, whatever the election stolen and whatever. I mean, he'll worry about other things.
Blender question: Are we getting?
No, we're not getting stupid set. Have you seen me do it? No.
Whoops. We don't know. It's a question. It's a comment.
It's fucking 9 weeks into the season.
Well, that's fair. That's fair point. So from let's just go position by position here and do the thing we usually do. So we already talked about quarterbacks. Running back, I obviously Chase Brown was a terrific play. Alvin Kamara was a terrific play. Was there anything that kind of struck you as a little bit weird when the cards turned on Sunday? I thought that everything.
Tyrone Tracy, 18%. What projection had Tyrone Tracy at that level?
I thought that Tyrone Tracy was an okay play at low ownership.
Yeah, it's 6%. Sure, if you want to try him at 6%, but did everyone just jump into that? I mean, James Conner, I had James Conner projected at a slightly higher median projection than Devon Achane. Yet Achane comes in at 21.5%, and Conner comes in at 6%.
Yeah, I mean, I had. Let's see, where do I have Conner? I had Conner at 15.24. I had Achane at 17.53. So I had Achane over. But
yeah, but not to be 3.5 times more owned. I mean, dude, another guy that was coming up way too much in the Sims that I was looking for is Tony Pollard at 6,800 for the Titans.
Yeah.
And I had him projected at 6% owned, and he came in at 3.
Yeah.
Scored 21 points. None of this matters because Chase Brown, Kamara, all the chalk did well. Right. So it didn't matter. I mean, Eckler did well enough for 53. 17 points for 5,300 is perfect.
That's great.
Fine.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Well, and this is it, you said at the beginning of this. It's just it's a microcosm of the larger point that running back has not mattered this year. You can just choose whoever. This comment, it was not the week to get cute at running back at all. I will push back on that. It was totally fine to get cute at running back. You could have played Derrick Henry.
You didn't gain, but I think the point is that you didn't gain anything. Getting if you got Saquon Barkley scored the most points at running back at 8,200, 36.9, and you didn't need him. It's not like there was not an outlier where you needed to get a total of 50 to 60 points out of your 2 RB spots.
You needed 60. You needed 60 because Kamara and Chase Brown, those guys were high enough owned, and HN, those guys were all high enough owned and scored 30 fantasy points. You needed 60 fantasy points out of running.
Well, let's say you didn't play Kamara and you played Derrick Henry instead. Well, Derrick Henry scored 29.3 points.
Yeah, it's fine.
At 4% owned. You'd be like, oh, I got 4% owned. It doesn't matter. Kamara at 25% owned scored the same amount of. That's kind of the point that we're making at. You could have gotten cute at running back, but it didn't get you anything. Right.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So at running back, as it has been basically all year, you play chalk or you don't, and it's probably fine. You're going to score most of the time somewhere between 18 and 22 fantasy points, and that's just been what it's been. Wide receiver. I mean, Olave injured is the most owned wide receiver.
Well,
Jalen Coker.
Drake 10 points in a quarter, and that's it.
Yeah. Tillman, 11 points. He didn't do super well. CeeDee Lamb got injured, still scored 16. Sorting my points, Jackson Smith-Njigba was terrific at 6%. This was, again, another week. We saw it last week, and I'm pretty sure we saw it the week before. Make your pivots at wide receiver. That's where you should be doing your
1.6% on Zay Flowers at 7K. 32.7 points.
Demarcus Robinson at 0.5% owned. Now, granted,
I mean, come on, you're not playing that Puka punched someone and got ejected. It's a little bit, you're not projecting that type of shit. But like
no.
Quentin Johnston, if you decided to play Quentin Johnston over Cedric Tillman, I wouldn't have called you nuts in GPP because why not? It's 4,400 and he can score long touchdowns.
Well, and Cooper Kupp at 7,700 too. I think Cooper Kupp was a good play. I wrote him up as one of the undervalued plays in the article. Like I thought that him at 7.7% owned, with the usage that he had had since he came back from injury, and we have seen both him and Puka have a 30% target share when they're healthy. Like, I thought that he was a great play at 7,700 too. He wasn't a pivot off anything, and it was one of those like no man's land prices. I think like you kind of weren't looking anywhere in that range. But I thought he was a great play. Jacoby Myers, I thought Jacoby Myers' ownership was, like, when I saw it, was a little bit higher than I thought that it was going to be, but I understand why it got there. I also know that there were a lot of people who were talking about stacking Las Vegas, which I think was a little bit of insanity outside of the Millie Maker. But like Jacoby Myers, 21, you played him in cash. I wasn't that high on him.
No, I was good. I was good on him. I just played him in cash on FanDuel over DraftKings, even though I would have done both. And my decision was, do I play Lockett on FanDuel and Myers on DraftKings, or do I play Myers on the other way around? And I had the money to go up to the Titans defense on DraftKings, so I just played Lockett.
I actually had him projected as the third best value on the slate. I shouldn't say that I wasn't.
The wide receiver one for the Raiders.
Well, yeah, the wide receiver one for the Raiders. Terrific. The wide receiver one.
They can't do anything, and they're going to be behind it. They throw the ball, and Jacoby Myers is a perfectly fine possession receiver. He's shown. I mean, he's a good receiver.
Yeah, no, he's a good
receiver.
You
could call him the Raiders JSN.
I should have been higher on him. I'm not actually sure why I wasn't higher on him. I don't know that I would have used him in cash, but I should have been higher on him. Let's see. What else do we got here for wide receivers? Darnell Mooney had that one long play.
Yeah, well, I mean, but the Mooney has benefited from London being injured. So, I mean, you chalk that up to whatever. I mean,
yeah. But overall, these ownerships are all really low for players who did well. I mean, you could have gotten 15 plus fantasy points out of 10% owned, 5% owned wide receivers across the board. That was the position that you swap at, and that, again, as a larger point, has been what you do this NFL season. It has been, you've been making money off of swapping at wide receiver, making pivots there. Even to your point, Cedric Tillman, if Cedric Tillman doesn't get there, then the vast majority of these players are all under 15% owned that actually won you GPPs. So it was just another week. Tight end, another
tight
week.
End, you do the opposite. Tight end, if there's a 3K tight end, you just play him because they're going to score 7 million points.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought Gesicki was fine this week, and I did write that I thought he was basically fine up to about 25% ownership. I thought he was fine at 25% ownership. He came in at 21 in the Millie. Okay, I'll buy that. Taysom Hill, sure, I guess. I'm not a Taysom Hill guy.
I thought it was a fine play. They throw the ball to him now.
He was fine. Well, he was fine, but he's one of those other ones where he really benefited from the Chris Olave injury. So if we're gonna chalk down the Darnell Mooney thing to Drake London, then we got to chalk down Taysom Hill a bit. I thought that he was an okay play. I don't think he was a great play at 13%. I thought that if you were going to play Taysom Hill, it was very likely that you were not going to play Alvin Kamara. I thought that it was hard to play them together, but I'm gonna guess that quite a few people did. No, actually. People played that right. It looks like, 1.2% of the field played them together. I think that's about right. I was under owned relative to top 20, top 1%.
Yeah, I didn't play. I made a group to not play them together. And my Taysom Hill lineups were mostly Derek Carr, Olave, Hill. I think I may have had like 3 lineups like that.
Because you leverage off of Kamara there on that one. And I think
those are the lineups that had Chase Brown in them. Right? So there you go.
There you go. It's all about lineups, not players. Kyle Pitts, silly. I don't know, who scored points for tight end? This was another kind of, if you didn't have
this is why Gesicki meant. That's why, like, tight end some weeks it's like, is there a point if you're going to play a 3K tight end, you might as well just play the chalk 3K tight end.
Yeah,
it's not like tight ends score many points to begin with.
Well, I don't know. Theo Johnson, I mean, if Gesicki doesn't get that 50-yard bomb at the end of the game,
Right.
then he ends up scoring, I don't know,
The
19
same points
or
as
something.
everyone else in this range.
Yeah. And he doesn't really matter all that much. Theo Johnson, man, there's a world where I play that Daniel Jones plus Malik Neighbors plus Theo Johnson, and Mike Gesicki doesn't score a 30-point, bomb at the end of the game.
It's not this world, James. It's not.
And I'm stoked. I would have made like $20 more or something.
Well, you did a double tight end. You should have played Gesicki and Drew Sample.
I absolutely should have.
Double Bengals tight end. You just do double Bengals tight end.
I don't know why I didn't think that. I should have. Played
blocking. You need a blocking tight end for Mike. You want to get Chase Brown in your lineup, and he needs a blocker, right, in your lineup, because so he could score more points, right? So you have Drew Sample in there just for blocking purposes.
Here's what I should have done. I should have played Joe Burrow with Drew Sample and Mike Gesicki, clearly double tight end. Chase Brown. Right, exactly. I should not have played Jamar Chase because he's bad at football, and everybody knows that. That's why he wasn't highly owned with no T. Higgins. That's just what I should have done. I should have done that and then just ate chalk everywhere else, because I'm unique with a unique roster construction with 2 tight ends.
Right, because why not play a 1.6 projected median fantasy point $2,500 blocking tight end when you already are playing the receiving tight end? Why not?
This
Just
week
treat it like it's showdown. That you do that in showdown, like that's a showdown type of line.
You absolutely do in showdown.
The only thing I'm glad for is that the 15% on defense scored no points. There you go.
I didn't even look at defense. Yeah, the 15% on defense scoring 0 fantasy points. That's a beautiful thing. If you didn't play them, I mean, 18 points out of the Chargers defense, 22 out of the Rams. That's a bit weird. But again, defense.
That's what happened when they return a touchdown 105 yards. Yeah, I mean, that'll happen.
Yeah. Defense hardly ever matters. You could have played the Rams defense going back against Geno Smith, and you'd have had been sick. That would have been great.
Double Bengals tight end, JSN, and the Rams defense with Geno Smith.
There you go. That's exactly how you should have built this week.
3 Bengals with no Burrow, the blocking tight end, the defense against that team.
Yes.
And how do you fit in Theo Johnson then? They need to get more tight end spots. That's what we need. We need 2 tight end spots. Let's
replace the 3rd wide receiver slot with a 2nd tight end slot and really just get weird about it.
I'm fine with replacing DST with a tight end spot. I don't care.
Yeah, no kidding. Actually, I would like that a lot. That sounds like a good idea, actually. Long ago, when Blender and I were just bullshitting our way through this podcast, we did solve baseball in the way that we decided on the way that baseball should be played. We now need to solve and fix DFS by replacing DST with the 2nd tight end spot. And that's actually a realistic thing.
No, the realistic thing is to replace DST with the super flex spot.
Ah, man. that's how they do CFB, right? That's how they do college football.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's the best. So you could stack 2 things. You could be like, I'm going to have a Geno stack with a Burrow stack. Like, there you go. So you end up playing, you could play Burrow, Gesicki, Brown with Geno Smith, JSN, and whatever. You could do all that.
That actually would be sick. I think that would be a good idea. Yeah. So I mean, I guess this week made sense. I mean, when you have lineups chopping to win the Thunderdome, like, it quote unquote makes sense. But I also want to point out, like, don't overreact to this. Like, just because the cash lineup wins everything, that we saw it last year. We see it every year. Like, there's at least 1 week where cash lineups are finishing like top 50 in the Millie Maker, and there's like 20-man trains or whatever in the top 100. And it's like, that doesn't mean anything, really. The short samples, there's a lot of conversation in the Discord this morning about, like, oh, well, this is the way that NFL is going to be going towards, and we should be building more towards optimal lineups rather than
that's DFS in general.
Kind of.
It's not going that way. It's just keep on coming back to lineups, not players. I've been known as a contrarian GPP player, but take a look at my lineups over the past 10 years. Mm-hmm. They're not contrarian. They're like, oh, well, Well, you played a lot of Chase Brown. You played a lot of Chris Olave. You played a lot of I thought you were contrarian. It's yeah, and I only have to be contrarian like 3 spots. I mean,
Right.
that's your projection you should whatever projections you use or aggregate or whatever the hell you use. You look at the optimal in your projections and you go, okay, the optimal median lineup is 146, right?
Yeah.
And then you go, okay, here's 10 lineups that I'm thinking about playing. I'm playing Nick Chubb instead of this guy, and I'm going to play Theo Johnson with Tyrone Tracy, and then I'm going to play Lad McConkey as a one-off with a Jameis Winston, whatever. And then next thing you know, your median lineup is 121 points. And it's you gave up 25 points in median projection, and then you look at your ownership, and it's like 42%. Like, you don't need to play these lineups. Like, those lineups are not necessary. You're doing too much, right? So you want to play lineups that are you're not gonna get to 146, but I mean, I'm playing lineups based on my projections. Like my optimal was 146. I was playing lineups in like the 132 to 138 range. I mean, and it includes correlation, right? So when I'm playing CeeDee Lamb, I'm playing Dak Prescott, I'm playing Jake Ferguson, right? And when I'm playing Drake London, I'm playing Kirk Cousins. When I'm playing Cedric Tillman, I'm playing Jameis Winston. So, the projection in the lineup starts going down. The ownership starts coming down to 80 to 100 or whatever. And I go, this is for the millie. This is not even for like the power sweep or the spy or something. Like, dude, you don't need the projection is the projection for a reason. If you're playing lineups that are projected 25 points lower than your optimal, I mean, you're essentially playing a game where you're seeding one of the spots in your entire lineup. You're saying I'm just going to cut out the flex spot and just play that because that's how many points you're giving up.
Right.
Like, you don't need to do that. The reason why the projections exist is because the projections are good. Mm-hmm. Right? So most of the best projected plays did well. Well, who would have thought? That's what projections are. If we imagine every week, James, that you put out NFL projections at Paydirt, and that almost nearly every week, the top 10 projected plays all did horribly, and 1% owned guys all did well, and that happened every single week. It'd be like, wow, these projections are fucking awful. Right? Like, that's why projections exist, right? But there is a wide range of outcomes. And not everyone that projects well from a median standpoint necessarily hits the ceiling, and not necessarily, guys hit zeros. And obviously, we have all these injuries in NFL to deal with, so there's going to be a ton of variance. But for the most part, you're not playing your cash lineup in the milli maker, but you're not playing a lineup that is 30 points off of that at any point in any contest.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's why I built tools like the Pivot Finder, right? Like it, and this goes off of a lot of the logic and the kind of thoughts that we built into the theory DFS, which is to say, if a player has a projection that is similar to another one, then the deciding factor is no longer their median projection, it is their ownership, right? Like what you're deciding on at that point is an ownership swap. And the reason why that's important is, man, if it's a load, for some reason it's taking fucking forever. The point is, when you're looking at running backs, for instance, if you have Kenneth Walker and Bijan Robinson, say you build out a cash game lineup first, and Bijan Robinson is in your cash game lineup because he's 16% owned. The way that you get to, in a very easy, simple manner, the way that you get to a single entry lineup is by saying, which of these players can I swap out some ownership on? Bijan Robinson and Kenneth Walker. There you go. It's $100 less. You're dropping your ownership by half. It's really, really simple to do that. And people
but the thing is, James, you don't have to do that at every fucking spot.
No, you don't. No, you absolutely don't. You just need to do it at one or two
That's what people do. I mean, I see people, they ask me questions. I'm playing Jamar Chase instead of Chase Brown, and that's leverage off of CeeDee Lamb and Price at wide receiver and Chase Brown at running back. And then instead of playing Kamara, I'm going to play Taysom Hill at tight end. And then instead of playing Tillman, I'm playing Elijah Moore. And then I'm going to play because Geno Smith is low owned. I'm going to play him plus Lockett.
Right.
And then as leverage on the on like dude, you're at the point where you've done too much. Like
right.
at this point, okay, stop about a sentence or two less. Stop at that point, and then press the optimize button. That's your lineup. Just play that goddamn lineup, right? You've already gotten to the point of where you're when your lineup as for this slate is like J.K. Dobbins and James Conner at running back, and Darnell Mooney one-off at wide receiver. It's like, dude, stop. You're done. You're playing Gesicki in this lineup. You're playing your flex spot is going to be Kamara or Brown, or Eckler or something. Like, you're done. You already told me you're playing Dobbins, Connor, and Mooney. Like, you're done.
That's
Press
it.
the goddamn optimize button and fucking be done with your lineup. You're done.
And I would even say even optimize off ownership at that point.
Right.
Like you don't even have to. I say all the time, you should start with a whole bunch of ownership. Like at this point, it's no secret what I propose to do in cash. Just build the chalkiest goddamn lineup that you've ever seen in your entire life, and then go to the pivot finder, run the top 5 owned players, and say, hey, look, maybe because I have 3 swaps off Chris Olave here, I should probably just get off Chris Olave for any one of these 3 guys, and then just play single entry lineup. There you go. Or if you want to make another swap, also get off of Drake London for Zay Flowers. There you go. That's it. That's all you have to do. You don't have to do that much more. And especially, like, we talk about it with NFL. We're talking about this with NFL. With NBA, it's even worse. People shouldn't even take it that far for NBA. The vast majority of the time for NBA, you optimize off of ownership. And if you make more than 2 pivots, you're probably giving up too much median. At that point in NBA, you're probably giving up too much median if you get off of more than 2 at max 3 players. If you build anything but a cash lineup with like 3 pivots in NBA, what contest are you entering? Like how much relative value do you need to get off of the top 5 owned players in NBA? You're probably just shot. Like, what are you hoping for? So I do think, to an extent, I do think that is the natural progression of what DFS is. However, I do think that there are overreactions to saying that you have to play just cash lineups or just like all of the ownership. The overreaction to that is that lower owned players cannot do well. That's the overreaction. And when you go and you look, like, you can see Zay Flowers crushed, Derrick Henry 5%, Geno Smith 4%, Demarcus Robinson 1%. That these lower owned players can and will do well. Your job is not to fill your entire lineup with 5% owned players. Your job is to find Zay Flowers. Your job is to find Demarcus Robinson in a large portfolio. You're not going to get to him in single entry. I'm sorry, baby. You're not going to get Demarcus Robinson at 0.5%.
If you played the same lineup, pick the lineup that you play in single entry and replace Drake London with Jackson Smith and Jigba, you probably came top 10 in the SPY.
Yeah.
I mean, that's you, because you played if you played Geno Smith plus JSN, and then you had Kamara, Eckler, Chase Brown, Gesicki, Cardinals defense, and then pick some other wide receiver that wasn't Olave because you have Kamara in your lineup, and maybe you have Jacoby Myers there instead. I mean, dude, that's great. It's almost a 200-point scoring lineup on yesterday's. I mean, like, you're done. You did it. And right, you played 6% on JSN with 4% on Geno. And everyone else in your lineup is like 15+% owned, and you would have won. I think you would have won the SPY with that lineup like that.
Yeah. I mean, I had subscribers who placed really, really high just by making one pivot off of like a player, and it was fine. But here's the secret, and this is the thing that Jordan and I have tried to say for, I don't know, man, 3 years now. It's, if you build with smart pivots away from what everybody else is doing, if you think about, okay, everyone is playing this way, what is a small way without giving up too much median to get away from that? That's how you play. People are trying to, it's not about being right. It's about leveraging what the field is doing and making money where they end up making mistakes. That's what you should be doing. And this pivot strategy of saying, here's a really high owned lineup, build a cash lineup, and then figure out which pieces of that you can get away from in single entry based on similar medians at lower ownership. That's what you should be trying to do. This week was a great example of that, and every single NBA slate is a great example of that. When we get back into baseball, it's a little bit different. Things are very, very variant in baseball. In NHL, things are a little bit different. Things are very variant in NHL. But I would even say in NHL and MLB, most of the time, you're going to find that the best spots to stack are going to be the highest totals, and the highest totals are going to have the most ownership. And then your job is, how can I build that lineup a little bit differently than what other people are doing so that I can leverage the way that the field is playing and make money off of it? That's just all it is. It's not about being right. So many times people ask me, would you rather play this player or this player? I'm like, I don't care, honestly. Like you could probably play either one. What does the rest of your lineup look like? If you're going from a 28% owned player to a 3% owned player, do you really need to? Like, do you need... Is there another 3% owned player in your lineup? If there is, then why the fuck are you making a swap? Just eat the 28% owned player. It doesn't matter. It's a lesson that should not need to be taught so many times, but we will continue to teach it, or at least I will. Blender will tell you to shut up, and
No, you get our course. We teach it in theory of DFS.com.
We do. We teach it in theory of DFS.com. I don't have that screen pulled up. I guess I could pull it up.
Just put it on your browser, theoryofdfs.com. I just said it. See? You gotta learn. You gotta learn to set this stuff up beforehand.
Well, fuck you. It's the first time I've done
money off of it, so there you go.
I'm learning. Anyway, you can find Theory DFS over at theorydfs.com. It's a course that Blender and I put together on all of these concepts. Like the thing that we just talked about with that pivot strategy, that is in here, as well as a whole bunch of tools that I built to make you a better, smarter player, including, portfolio analyzer and the portfolio trimmer, things like that. Dupe finder, which is really important for Showdown. We have a full course on this. It's evergreen, right? Like we have 2 different full courses on it. So learn how to play DFS correctly. And if you listen to us,
and also teach you not to play Tyrone Tracy at 18% ownership.
It will also,
there's a whole chapter just on Tyrone Tracy at 18% ownership.
I wish that it could teach me how to figure out that Tyrone Tracy was going to be fucking 18% owned so that I wouldn't suggest him as a low end play. But unfortunately, that's a whole other can of worms.
Well, you did. So it was your fault then. People just listen.
Hold on. I don't think, did I write him up here? I don't remember if I wrote him up here. We'll find out.
I mean, I heard the Jalen Cokers. I mean, we made fun of Jalen Coker 2 weeks ago.
We did, and then I ended up...
And he was 6% owned while Deontay Johnson was still there.
Some other guys that are less popular that models are really into are Jake Bobo and Jalen Coker, both value wide receivers that help you unlock higher price running back and tight end positions.
Yeah, the low-owned Coker at 18%.
And then he ends up at 18% owned, which is tragic. I have him projected for 10. I did say I prefer to just land on Tillman and Coker in most of my lineups, but Bobo makes for a large, cool field, large field option with Geno Smith. So
right, but see, that's actually low owned. I mean, we take a look at where did Bobo? Bobo came in at 2.4% owned. He scored no points. Scored no points, 0. Got a 0.
Well, but he was still a better player than Jalen Coker.
At that ownership, yeah, the difference between 18 and 2, yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, this has been breaking down week 9. This is going to happen on Paydirt moving forward for Mondays with McCool. Blender, do you plan on doing the rest of the stuff on your channel for the rest of the week?
No, I'm on RG.
All right.
I'm still at Roto Grinders just because this show is here. I mean, I'm just that we no longer do a Monday show on the RG YouTube channel. But I will be back tomorrow with fucking NBA, whatever the fuck. Right? Even though I don't play NBA DFS, but we'll look at Sim Labs and see what the fuck we're gonna do there. And no, it's the same thing in Wednesday preview, Thursday, Friday. I mean, everything on other than the Monday cut one show. They just cut. It's like, oh, do 4 shows a week instead of 5. And apparently people don't like review shows because once it's done, no one cares.
Yeah, which is weird because there's so much to learn. mean, these
I
review shows.
prefer it, dude. Stochastic used to do one, and that was the one that with when Lofty and Adam Ship My Money did. I thought that I look forward to that the most, and obviously the best one that there is the Gilcast, even though that's a little bit more for entertainment purposes with Davis, Nate, and Sammy. Yeah. I enjoy those the most. I did the Monday with the recaps and did you expect this? Did you what does your tournament lineup look like? I thought I prefer that to doing a Wednesday NFL preview where half the league is on the injury report. Like, what the fuck am I going to learn fucking Wednesday?
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, I would much prefer to do things like this. And like somebody asked me if there's NBA content at Paydirt.
Is there no NBA tomorrow?
No, there's no NBA on voting days.
I guess I'm doing NHL tomorrow then, I guess.
Yeah, there you go. That's a better sport to break
good.
down.
I have a 555 ticket for the election. They're calling it the election night barn burner or something, and it's whatever contest on DraftKings, right? So I guess Tim and I are doing okay. We're going to do NHL. Good. I'm actually playing that NHL slate because I got the 555 ticket.
It's a yearly tradition for all of the really good DFS players to play like one NHL slate a year. It's when they run this 555. Every single good player has a ticket to it. It's like an all-star game for the DFS players.
I will not be paying attention to hockey. I will be paying attention to poll results.
Well, okay, that's fair enough.
It may be the most profitable. It may be the most profitable day in the history of my life.
I was gonna say, I'm sure, because you did it a bunch last year too, right? I mean, you've been
the 2020, the midterms, and 2022 midterms, 2018 midterms, 2020. After I saw what happened in 2016, I'm like, no, I got to get on board this. And boy,
yeah. I mean, this year the markets have been completely disconnected from reality, just entirely disconnected from reality.
No, they were the midterms as well as 2020.
No, yeah. No, they get disconnected because the people who are betting are that there's a certain subset of people who actually put money on these things for the majority of the volume. And then there's people like you and people like Gordy Lamb in the Discord who are just like, well, if everybody's going to make a coin toss 66-33, I guess I'm just going to take the other side.
But that's not where the edge is. I mean, there's an edge there, but that's not where the edge is.
Where's the edge? You can say it here.
Yeah, when something's a coin flip and you could get 15-1 on it, that's where I'm going.
What is that one? There's 117 people watching this, so you're not giving away too much edge here.
No, think in terms of because I'm not going to give. Think in terms, you know, Prize Picks.
Yeah.
Remember when Prize Picks that you could play like a quarterback's over and like a wide receiver's over and
I get it. Okay.
Yeah. And they just didn't ding you. They're just like, yeah, these things are correlated, but we're gonna act like they're not correlated.
Yeah.
That's the type of stuff. Like
I get you.
Like there are certain things that when poll results come in and you could see what returns are in certain counties. And you could be like, well, if that's true, that means these 6 other things are much more likely to be true.
Yeah.
With a correlation, James, we're talking about correlation coefficients of 0.7 and 0.8.
Yeah.
Right. So picture playing League of Legends against a field that is not stacking.
Yeah, sounds great. I should get in on it. I really should.
Yeah. The probably you have to get. Yeah, I mean, getting the money down is that's more of the issue.
Yeah, well, of course, that's always an issue in the betting market.
But if you got crypto, it's very easy.
Oh yeah, I believe it. All right, well, that's gonna be the show. Thank you, Blender. Appreciate it. This is gonna be happening here moving forward. Mondays with McCool. Feedback, any of that kind of stuff. Obviously, go over to paydirtdfs.com. Get a subscription. Go read the articles. Go use the models. And if you don't, then you can always ask me questions over in the Discord about anything involving DFS or betting. So. It's been Mondays with McCool. Thank you guys so much, and we will talk to you next week.